Thank you. Just want to I'm silencing my cell phones just so they won't go off in the middle of this. So, we want to thank everyone very much for being here today. My name is Lynn Poyen, and I'm the chair of the JFK Memorial Trust Fund Committee. This is a very solemn occasion. It marks the 60th anniversary of the assassination of JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, our 35th president, who was a neighbor. And just to give you some perspective, according to the 1960 federal census, there were 13,347 people living in the town of Barnstable. Today, it's almost 50,000. So when you talk about someone who was a neighbor, this is someone who was truly known in this community. And I am honored to ask Bill Murphy, who is the son of Judge Henry L. Murphy, who was the first chair of the JFK Memorial Trust Fund. He was actually part of a number of things, and he was the moderator for the town meetings that were held. And Bill is going to read a special excerpt from the town meeting of Monday, December 2nd, 1963. Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning. The following tribute is a paraphrasing of the immortal and simple words of Abraham Lincoln in his Gettysburg Address, which has come down through the years, enshrined in the hearts of all Americans. Tribute to President John F. Kennedy, a special town meeting held Monday, December 2nd, 1963, at Barnstable High School at 7:30 p.m. 26 years ago, a second son was born to the Honorable Joseph P. Kennedys. Some are residents of Hyannisport, Massachusetts, and they called him John. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. This boy was destined to become the 35th President of the United States and to die at the hands of an assassin after serving as president for 2 years, 10 months, and 2 days. He was educated and trained and inherently believed that all men are equal under the law and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Under the leadership of the new president, Lyndon B. Johnson, we are not engaged in a collective national effort inspired by our common grief and sorrow to eliminate the evil in our hearts and in our society that makes possible such monstrous deeds as the assassination of a fellow human being. We are met in this community where the late president and his family have spent many years, many happy years. We come to this meeting to dedicate ourselves and to pay honor to the memory of this great and inspiring leader and to his ideals of freedom, equality, and peace for everyone, everywhere. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot make hallow this memory. The brave and gallant man whose life was sacrificed for his country has by his actions while living consecrated it far beyond our poor power to add or to detract. And so has his lovely wife honored his memory by her matchless dignity and courage throughout her awful ordeal. It is rather for each one of us now living to dedicate it to the unfinished work which thus far he has so nobly advanced. It is rather for each one of us now living to be dedicated to the great task which lies before us, that from beyond his honored departed, we take increased devotion to those causes for which he paid the last full measure of devotion. We hereby highly resolve that John Fitzgerald Kennedy shall not have died in vain, that each one of us, under God, shall do everything possible to eliminate any ideas of hatred, intolerance, or revenge in our hearts. To that end, that government of people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. It was unanimously voted that a copy of this tribute be spread upon the records of the town and a copy be sent to the late president's widow and his parents.
We just wanted to provide a little information about the JFK Memorial. The memorial was very simple in design, but powerful in its serenity. and beauty and has become a tranquil haven for travelers the world over. Dedicated in 1966 with Senator Edward M. Kennedy in attendance, the memorial is now the responsibility of the JFK Memorial Trust Fund. Our town manager, Mark Ells, is one of the trustees, as is Bob Jones, who is the vice chair of the committee, and Mr. Murphy, who you just met. And we lost a member this year, Hugh Finley, who had been a very staunch supporter of the memorial. He lived in the Yachtsman condominiums, and he took it upon himself to pretty much daily check on the memorial to make sure everything was okay. So visitors to the Seaside Memorial, not far from where JFK spent his boyhood home, now number in the hundreds of thousands and from all walks of life. The memorial was planned by the townspeople of Barnstable as a place where a person might rest for a moment, at peace with himself and his thoughts. From the rotunda, one looks out across Lewis Bay to Yarmouth. It was here on Lewis Bay, in Hyannis Harbor, and on Nantucket Sound that President Kennedy swam and sailed. His presidential yacht, the Patrick J., was a familiar sight on summer weekends. And the inscription on the pool rim inside the railing is from one of the President Kennedy's speeches. I believe it is important that this country sail and not lie still in the harbor. At this time, we would like to post the Barnstable Police Department's Honor Guard, post the colors. Please stand. And we would like to invite up the Barnstable High School Choral Group under the direction of Marcia Wertrall for the national anthem.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Beautifully done.
He'll be back. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Jones, our Vice Chair of the JFK Memorial, to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, all. What a wonderful crowd here today. Thank you. It's almost serendipitous that I'm standing here today because 60 years ago I was standing by the gravesite of President Kennedy, where it was surrounded by a shot fence and loaded with flowers, and the eternal flame had been lit, and there's a bough of a pine needles and stuff, and the Special Forces beret was placed upon that. And the Such a serendipitous type of a situation to be here today, 60 years later. I am going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You may be seated. Now I'd like to introduce some very special guests that we have with us today before we do the placement of the flag of the wreath. I want to thank Congressman Keating for joining us again today. He was here 10 years ago when we recognized the 50th anniversary. The weather was much nicer that day, and we were able to be actually at the memorial, but thank you very much, Congressman Keating and Tevis, for being with us this morning. I would like to acknowledge that we have Representative Kip Diggs and Representative Stephen Exaros with us. We have Betty Leckie, our town council, our senior statesman town councilor is from the room, from what I can see. We have our newly elected town councilors. So if I go in alphabetical order, it's Felicia Penn, Craig Tamish, and Kristen Turkelson. Oh, and Chris Clark, sorry, I didn't, you were hiding, Chris. And then I want to thank our superintendent, Sarah Hearn, for being with us today. We're also have been having a wonderful partnership with the JFK Hyannis Museum, and we have the incoming chair, Paul Hart Miller, with us, and someone who's very well known all over Cape Cod, Wendy Northcross, the executive director of the museum. We are extremely honored to have you with us this morning. Congressman Keating, would you want to say anything? We'd be more than happy to.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for gathering on an important day to remember in our history. I recall being in the third grade, and we had a vote for who would we choose for president. There were three of us that voted in the whole classroom for John Kennedy, and we were so delighted when the results came in, and even though there were just three of us, we had won. Going back in time, though, it wasn't lost on me that the three of us were the only three Catholics in the school. And it brings us back to the time that, our country had barriers on this. I remember my own grandmother talking about Al Smith. I didn't know who Al Smith was, but she clued me in at such a young age. And so I understood as we gathered together in our house, looking at a black and white television, and it wasn't just a gathering to watch television. It was so meaningful. I remember almost every detail. I remember Robert Frost, the poet, was there, and the weather was so bad and so cold, his glasses kept steaming up, so he had difficulty reading his own poems and his own words, but they were beautiful and inspirational. And of course, we all studied, and I hope we continue to do, President Kennedy's inaugural speech. Little did I know at that time, it was incomprehensible to me that someday I would be a congressman in his office, his very office, in the Cannon Building, serving people of this district, a place that wasn't his district, but a place that he had such a warm and close feeling with and shared. But today I'd like to just leave you with one thought, because it's important to realize in the solemn portion of today's ceremony. Years ago, and it's hard to believe, but it was about 4 decades ago, I was invited to the Kennedy compound, and Senator Ted Kennedy and his mother were there to greet us. It was just a small grouping of us. Frankly, it was there because they were sort of rewarding the few handful of people that stood with him when he had an unsuccessful campaign for the presidency at that time. And Senator Kennedy invited people out into his sailboat to take them out sailing. And I was the only one that said, I think I'll stand back. I couldn't swim and still can't, even though I live on the water. And I just decided to stay there. It was a wise decision because as I just waited by myself, Rose Kennedy came to me and said, oh, would you like to come into the house? And so I had the occasion, just by myself and Rose Kennedy, to come in and listen to her as she went through her house and sort of explain things. The thing that probably stands out the most to me at that time was she took me into the main living quarters, and there is a grand piano. And on top of the grand piano were 3 silver-framed pictures, among the others. And they were her 3 sons that lost their lives serving their country. Joseph Kennedy, who took on a heroic mission and lost his life in World War II. John F. Kennedy, who we remember here today, and Robert Kennedy. And at that moment, it really struck me that there's a Gold Star mother. There's a mother, a real person, as my grandmother was, who lost her son, my uncle, killed in action. And it brought the human side that we often forget on days like this, that there was a family and a mother who lost 3 of her sons to the service of their country. And so as we gather today in a very important place for the former president to remember him, remember this day, let's take a moment to realize the human side of that, the loss that was there to family, to friends, to mothers, to all of us, a loss that we really can't quantify and people can only speculate upon in terms of what would have been had he not been taken from us so early. But the inspiration that he brought, the breakthroughs that he made, we have an opportunity today to grasp that. And we're in an inflection point right now in our country. And I hope that inspiration, I hope that the barriers that we look, the tolerance that his candidacy showed in our country, particularly from a religious sense, all those things can be brought together today, and we can pause and reflect on that. So I want to thank the committee for helping us remember this important day. Thank you so much.
At this time, we're going to have the wreath laying, and I would like for Bob Jones, Bill Murphy, and Mr. Ells to please go back to get the wreath. And we are going to ask Congressman Keating, Representative Exaros, Representative Diggs, and our counselors, Clark, Penn, Lutke, Turkelson, and Tamish, to get in line behind them as well. Please stand as the wreath is being brought up. At this time, we will welcome back the Barnstable High School Choral Group under the direction of Miss Marsha Wertrall to sing America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for Spain. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Beautiful.
We can now dismiss the colors. We want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us here today. We want to thank the special contributions that we had. Congressman Keating, your words were beautiful. To our choral group, you were outstanding. And to our trumpeter, thank you so very much. They really added a lot, and you are our future. So know that we will be looking for you to do more in the future as well. We know that a lot of people have a lot of memories of where they were during the time that JFK passed, so if you want to stay and mingle, that's fine. But we do invite you to join us over at the JFK Hyannis Museum, which actually was the town hall when JFK was president. And there's a special wreath-laying ceremony that will be taking place there at 10 o'clock. So if you would like, you can feel free to mix and mingle here or go over there and mix and mingle and then partake in that ceremony as well. So thank you very much for being with us today.